Can Live podcast, a space where we have candid discourses to help you live a more meaningful, purposeful, and fulfilled lives. Before we cut straight to the chase, I want to pause and acknowledge something important. These are our first 2 episodes, and in life, the first version of anything meaningful is rarely the best version. Simply just the bent genesis of things, right? So please extend grace to this journey and to yourselves too. So that principle not only applies to this podcast, but both to money, mindset, relationships, leadership, and purpose endeavors. We don't get it right the first time, but we get better with time, intentionality, and consistency. In the last episode, we laid a foundation by talking about mindset, how the way we think quietly determines the outcome we experience in life and with money. Today, we build on that strong foundation by asking a deeper set of questions. What if you are financially rich but poor everywhere else? What if you have money but no time? What if your income is growing but your health is declining? What if your bank account is increasing but your relationships are shrinking? This is why today I want to introduce a framework that is called the wealth mosaic. So, the wealth mosaic is really this incredible, beautiful piece of art made up of many pieces, more or less like a jigsaw puzzle. If you remove one piece, the whole picture becomes incomplete. So, in the same vein, true wealth is never a one-dimensional thing. Despite of money being an important thing, it is not the complete picture. So, the wealth mosaic is really a holistic way of understanding wealth from a broader scheme of things, where financial success supports life instead of replacing it. When people hear the word wealth, this is usually what they think of: income, savings, investments, assets. That is okay, because it pays bills, creates options, reduces stress. But money is really a means to an end, it's not an end in itself. I have seen people that earn well and still feel trapped because money without direction becomes pressure. Financial wealth should serve your life, not dominate it. Let's look at one other facet of the wealth mosaic called time wealth. Time wealth is really the ability to control your schedule. Just imagine that. When you work, when you rest. And many people, they earn money but sell all their time to get it. Here is the irony. If money costs your health, your family, and your peace, peace is really like the tranquility of the soul. That is not wealth. It's literally a trade, and a fairly unbalanced one. True financial freedom must increase time freedom, not just income in itself. Let's look at the third aspect of the wealth mosaic, which they call the social wealth. Social wealth is really the depth and the quality of your relationships, and that ranges from your friends, from your family, from your mentors, and community. So, success without relationships is really empty. Your network doesn't just open doors, it sustains you when life applies some pressure. And here is something that we often don't talk about. Your financial habits are heavily influenced by the people around you. So there's a popular adage that really says your income is the average of your 5 closest people within your circle. Let us look at another aspect that is called physical wealth. You know, Warren Buffett says, imagine you are given one car to drive throughout your whole life. You would really be mindful in the manner in which you handle that car, because you know you will only have that car in your whole entire lifetime. So your body is really the vehicle through which all wealth is experienced. And physical wealth includes health, energy, strength, and vitality. What's really the point of having so much money within your retirement plan to go to the Maldives Islands if you do not have the wealth, or the health rather, to go and enjoy that? We don't just invest in money, we invest in sleep, we invest in nutrition, we invest in movement. And they say if you ignore your body long enough, it will eventually demand attention, often at a high cost. Steve Jobs says, eat your food as medicine, otherwise you'll end up eating your medicine as food. Number 5, mental and emotional wealth. This is really a wealth that predominantly majority of people neglect in our generation and within our dispensation. And mental and emotional health includes clarity, emotional regulation, purpose, and peace of mind. You can have money and still be anxious. You can have assets and still feel empty. And your outer world will never outperform your inner world. That's why mindset sits at the core and at the epicenter of this podcast. Number 6, legacy and family wealth. Legacy is not just what you leave behind, that mammoth of millions that you leave behind. It's really what you pass on to the next generation. And this includes your value system, your character, unity that you leave behind, the financial literacy that you pass on to the next generation. That's why in some communities, they break what they call the perpetual vicious cycle of abject poverty, because not only do they transfer money, but they transfer this knowledge system that enable the future generation preserve and multiply that money through the financial literacy principles and concepts they pass on. So, some families inherit money and lose values. Others inherit wealth but lack knowledge. True legacy is a combination of both. Hence, it is important to have the conversations, the discourses, and the deliberations about money, estate planning, and value systems within the family structure. Last but not least, the 7th piece of the mosaic is really the spiritual wealth. Spiritual wealth answers those deep, fundamental, and seminal questions about life, such as, why am I building all of this? It's about purpose. It's about faith, the values, and the connection to something greater than yourself, or synonymously say higher power. Without spiritual grounding, my friend, wealth becomes directionless, and money without meaning can create restlessness. True wealth is just not money. It's alignment to a greater cause and a greater something higher than yourself. Now that we have established that wealth is a multi-dimensional aspect and that it goes far beyond money alone and that which can be denominated in monetary value, let's be intentional and zoom in a little bit. In as much as wealth includes time, health, relationships, purpose, and legacy, finance is also a critical component of the foundation. When money is managed, it imposes pressure on every other area of life. And if it's managed well, it creates a space for everything to flourish. In the next section, I want to narrow down our conversation to specifically the financial dimension of wealth and really examine something that determines the outcome for many people, which we call a poverty versus a wealthy mindset. So let's explore these two mindsets and how they affect the results that people reap from their lives. The poverty mindset says money is evil and problematic. The wealthy mindset says money is a tool. Money in itself is a tool. You can either use it for good or for evil, but in itself it's a tool. If you believe that money is evil, you will subconsciously repel it. But if you see money as a tool, you will find a way to use it responsibly. The poverty mindset says, work for money. The wealthy mindset says, build assets over time. One trades time for income, And the other, build systems that reduce dependence on time. The poverty mindset says, spend first. That's the consumer mentality. The wealthy mindset says, prioritize investing first. And that is really about the power of delayed gratification. The poverty mindset says, let's exchange short-term comfort. It's all about short-term comfort. The wealthy mindset says it's about long-term freedom. It's about playing the long-term game. It's about the tortoise that win the marathon compared to the hay because it kept the consistency. Wealth is really built in months. It's really built through consistent decisions over years. The poverty mindset sees debt to fund lifestyle. We buy things we don't like to impress people we don't know with money that we don't have. But a wealth mindset sees debt as a leverage and should be managed carefully. So for many, debt becomes slavery. For a few, debt becomes a tool. The poverty mindset blames the system. The wealthy mindset takes ownership. Now that we know the distinctions between these two mindsets, I want to close off by really us having a discourse on how can you change your mindset. The first thing that you need to do to change your mindset is you need to become aware of the beliefs that you uphold to be true. So you need to identify those beliefs that you currently operate from. And we know that beliefs is those statements that you quietly accept to be true about yourself, money, and the world, and you have rarely questioned them. You can uncover them by paying attention at your inner dialogue, to the things you say out loud also when you speak to people. That can be things like, I'm not good with money. That can be things like, things will never work out for me. That can be things like, it always runs out. So a helpful exercise to identify that is to write these statements down. Once a belief is written, it can be examined. And what can be examined can actually be changed. And you cannot change what you are not aware of. Number 2, control your internal dialogue. So once you have identified those limiting beliefs, the next step is to challenge them. Most people, they run the same negative thought pattern on repeat, just like a movie that you have watched so many times. And if you leave it unchecked, those thoughts shapes decisions and behavior. So next time when a negative thought appears, don't entertain it, counter it, replace it with a truthful, constructive statement. You can even prepare a short list of positive truth claims that you can remind yourself of every morning, because thoughts repeated consistently eventually become belief. Number 3, change your diet. And this is not physical diet, it's mental diet. This is about changing the information that you consume, because what you consume shapes how you think. If you consume junk, you start thinking junkish. If you feed your mind with fear, negativity, and distraction, you'll develop a cluttered and anxious mindset. So be very intentional about what you watch, what you listen to, the conversations that you entertain and involve yourself in. And grow the culture of feeding your mind with life-giving content, such as God's word, good books, and voices that really build wisdom and perspective. Last but not least, in terms of changing your mindset, change your circle. There's an adage again which says you become an average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So some relationships really do enforce destructive beliefs, while others, they stretch your thinking and encourage growth. This doesn't necessarily mean that you must start cutting off people harshly, but just means that you need to be very jealous and intentional about whom you spend most of your time with. In closing, remember the following. Don't change your life by accident. You don't change your life by accident. You change it by the way you look at things. Because when perspective shifts, priorities realign. When priorities realign, behavior changes. When behavior changes, life begins to move in a new direction. Life is not built in moments of impulse. It's really built in that quiet, consistent decisions made with intention and purpose. And it always begins long before the action, in the mind and in the heart. If this conversation resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe and journey with us on Look and Live. This space exists to drive conversation that helps you live a more meaningful, purposeful, and fulfilled lives. In our next episode, we'll break down one of the most important building blocks of wealth creation in the financial freedom blueprint, which we call cash flow management. Until then, take time to reflect, look deeper, choose intentionally. This is Look and Live.